The first time I realized my neighborhood wasn't normal was the night Karen shined a flashlight directly into my wife's face and called the cops, just because my wife was watering our plants after sunset. What I didn't know then was that this moment would spark a chain of events that would flip the entire WA upside down, and end with my wife sitting on the other side of a courtroom, staring directly at the woman who tried to ruin her. It started the week we moved into Ashwood Meadows, a neighborhood so aggressively perfect that even squirrels seemed to walk in straight lines. My wife, Emily, loved the place immediately: quiet streets, cozy lawns, and friendly neighbors who waved from their porches. But what we didn't know was that the friendliness had an expiration date, and that date was the moment Karen, the self-appointed queen of the WA, noticed us. Karen was the type of person who measured grass with a ruler and believed smiling was a sin unless it came with a warning. The first words she ever said to us were, "New families must read the WA guidelines before doing anything." Anything. And she meant anything: planting, parking, breathing in the wrong direction. The woman lived for control. At first, we tried to stay polite. We followed the rules, attended the mandatory WA meetings, even baked cookies for our neighbors. But Karen, she saw kindness as weakness. And weakness was an opportunity. The real trouble started one night at 10:03 p.m. Emily had just finished a long shift at the family counseling center where she worked. Her job was stressful, draining, and emotionally heavy. Gardening was her therapy. So she stepped into the yard, barefoot, humming softly, watering her hydrangeas under the porch light. It was peaceful, for exactly 3 minutes. A sharp bark shattered the quiet. "Excuse me, you're violating curfew." Karen appeared out of the darkness, armed with a flashlight and a smartphone held like a weapon. "Watering after 10 is an WA violation. It's in the rulebook." Emily blinked at her, stunned. I didn't know. "I can stop. You can explain it to the police," Karen snapped. I came outside just in time to hear Karen on the phone. "Yes, officer, suspicious behavior. Possibly trespassing. Yes. She's on the property right now." "My property. My wife." I felt heat rise in my chest. "She's watering our plants," I snapped. "How is that suspicious?" Karen curled her lip. "Rules are rules. If you wanted freedom, you should have moved somewhere else." 30 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. Thankfully, they saw the situation for what it was: ridiculous, and left after politely advising us to talk to the WA. But Karen stood there the whole time, arms crossed, eyes gleaming with triumph. That was the moment she decided she didn't want us in the neighborhood. Little did she know, the person she was picking a fight with was the last person she should challenge. The following weeks were a war Karen fought with obsession. She reported us for grass too long, even though it was trimmed. She snapped photos of our recycling bin placement. She left warnings taped to our door about visible hoses. She even suggested the WA fine us for unneighborly conduct, whatever that meant. But the breaking point came when she tried to get Emily removed from the community entirely. She submitted a formal complaint accusing Emily of being aggressive, disruptive, and a danger to neighborhood order. The board, mostly Karen's puppets, scheduled a hearing. Emily sat at the kitchen table reading the complaint, hands trembling. "I don't understand what I did wrong." I squeezed her shoulder. "You didn't do anything wrong. But Karen thinks she owns the place. She's not used to people not bowing down to her." What Karen didn't understand, because she never bothered to ask, was that Emily wasn't just a counselor. She was a state-certified mediator who occasionally worked with the county court on community disputes. And that year, she had been selected for a special role. A role that would become Karen's worst nightmare. 2 months later, months we spent avoiding Karen, months she spent gathering evidence about our supposedly subhuman lawn care, something unexpected arrived in the mail. A letter from the county courthouse. It wasn't a complaint. It was an appointment notice. Emily had been assigned as one of the new presiding officers for local civil hearings involving homeowners associations. Should I decline? She asked me that night. It feels wrong with everything going on. Absolutely not, I told her. You earned this. And you don't owe Karen anything. Emily accepted the role, and karma took the wheel. 2 weeks after Emily's appointment, the neighborhood buzzed with rumors. People whispered about a massive complaint filed against the WA president, Karen, by several families fed up with her harassment, fines, and selective enforcement. The county reviewed the complaint. They approved the case for a hearing. And the presiding officer assigned my wife. I still remember the moment Karen walked into the hearing room. She looked confident, Wearing her stiff blazer and clutching a binder the size of a phone book, no doubt filled with accusations, bylaws, and blurry photos of neighbors' trash cans. But the moment she saw who was sitting at the judge's bench, her jaw actually dropped. Emily sat tall, poised, expression professional but unreadable. Karen froze. You can't be presiding over this. Emily's voice was calm. The county assigned me. Please take your seat so we can begin. For the first time since we'd met her, Karen had no words. The hearing lasted 3 hours. Multiple families testified. Stories of harassment, intimidation, rule manipulation, threats, selective targeting, and even fabricated complaints. Many admitted they had stayed silent because Karen made them afraid of retaliation. I was next, one elderly man whispered. She fined me because my wind chimes were too cheerful. As the testimonies piled up, Karen's confidence crumbled. She tried arguing, deflecting, denying, accusing. But her binder of evidence only made things worse. It showed her pattern of obsessive rule enforcement and personal vendettas. By the end, she wasn't angry. She was terrified. Emily reviewed everything with an unbiased eye, but the truth was undeniable. Finally, Emily closed the last file. Given the evidence, she stated, the HOA president has violated her responsibilities, abused her authority, and targeted residents unfairly. I am recommending immediate removal from her position, reimbursement of improperly issued fines, and mandatory oversight by an external management company. Karen's face drained of all color. You can't do this to me. Emily met her gaze, calm, firm, and resolute. You did it to yourself. The room erupted in relieved murmurs. Some people even clapped. Karen left the courthouse with trembling hands, her binder clutched against her chest like a shield that had finally cracked. She avoided us after that. No more flashlight interrogations, no more warnings taped to our door, no more false complaints. The new management company straightened out the neighborhood rules, removed ridiculous restrictions, and restored sanity to Ashwood Meadows. One afternoon, months later, as I watered the plants at 10:02 p.m. just because I could, I saw Karen standing across the street, watching silently. She didn't approach. She didn't speak. She just looked defeated. Emily stepped outside beside me. Do you think she learned anything? I asked. Emily smiled softly. Maybe. But even if she didn't, at least the neighborhood finally has peace. I took her hand. You know, you really are the scariest kind of revenge. She laughed. Why? Because I stayed calm. No, I said, because you let karma do the work. And with that, we went back to watering our plants, under the stars, under the porch light, and under the freedom we'd finally reclaimed.